Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started now and allow people to continue to kind of filter in. And then if you have something else kind of going on, you have to filter out, that's fine. The session is being recorded, and I believe Angela said she would be posting it on the MUS YouTube page. Is that accurate? Awesome.
Yes, we'll put it there and we'll put it on our website, and yeah, we'll just make sure everybody has it who wants it.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself real quick, and then I'll allow the rest of the people kind of on board to do the same. This session is more designed for more of a Q&A. I know FAFSA started about a month ago now, and I'm sure you've had a list of questions, some that you get every year, which you're probably well suited for, prepared, and feel comfortable answering. But maybe this might be a year where there's new questions that are coming up that you're not too comfortable with quite yet. So we'll definitely be willing and able to answer most, if not all, those questions now. Anything we cannot answer, we'll definitely follow up with you at a later date with the answer. But as I said, my name is Jaime Borrego. I am the Associate Director of Financial Aid here at Carroll College. I've been at Carroll College for a little over 5 years now, and I'm currently serving as our Association of Financial Aid Administrators for the state of Montana as their president. It's been a pleasure and an honor working with everybody around the state. It's been a blast, a lot of challenges, more especially this year. We started the year off with a bang. I don't know if it's too early for a joke or anything, but either way, I'm happy to be a part of MASPA and working with all the financial administrators around the state, as well as admissions counselors. So that's great. And with me, I have my trusty sidekick, Tristan, and I'll let her introduce herself.
So I am Tristan. So I'm with Montana Tech. I'm the assistant director here, and I am also on the MASPA board with Jaime.
Thank you, Tristan. And Derek, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Derek Calvert. I am the program manager for the Montana Educational Talent Search. I work out of the Montana University system, and I work as part of the college access team that we have here. And I mainly focus more on the FAFSA side, the FAFSA completion side of things for the college access team. But yeah, here to discuss FAFSA completion week and things revolving around that.
Thank you, Derek. Angela, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Ange King. I also am out of the Montana University system. My position supports Montana Educational Talent Search with Derek and the Gear Up side as well. Everything from college application week to decision day and all those fun things in between. And like Derek said, I just want to echo, we are super excited to do FAFSA completion week in partnership with MAFSA this year. And I heard some little voices on the call, so huge shout out to the parents who are navigating this world. I feel ya. So good for you all. Good morning. Good to be here.
Hey all, I'm Maria Lowrose. I am the College Access Senior Program Manager for our College Access team for the Montana University system. So just here to lend support and answer questions about FAFSA completion as they come up, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Maria. So like I said, this is more of a Q&A session, so any questions you have, feel free to either chime in. You could take yourself off mute and ask the question, or if you feel more comfortable just typing it in, and we'll answer those through the chat room and just answer them aloud, of course. Otherwise, I have just a couple of things that I talked about earlier in the week. Try to share my screen successfully, hopefully. Hopefully all of you could see that. So this is a little bit of what I talked about earlier in the week. And if there's no questions quite yet, I'll just kind of start talking about some of the updates that I mentioned earlier in the week, just to make sure to get you guys kind of thinking of any of the questions that you might have had earlier in the week and you're still trying to remember what those were. But the FSAD, again, remember that every student does need an FSAD when they're completing the FAFSA. Both the parent and the student need it. They can create an FSAD prior to starting the FAFSA, but it makes it a lot easier if they have it in hand when they start filling out the FAFSA, since that is what they would use as a signature. There is a requirement for the FSAD to have a database match, which is okay. It's just making sure all the information provided was accurate. But even creating it the same day the FAFSA is getting completed, you can still submit the FAFSA. It's not like a couple of years back, you had to wait for a little bit for that FAFSA to submit it with the FSAD because you needed to hear back from the feds that it was okay. But now you don't have to wait. You can still do it the same day. So we do encourage that to be in hand prior to starting the FAFSA if possible. Here's a demo site that I did mention. Hopefully all of you guys got the handout earlier in the week. If not, feel free to write this demo site. I actually used it yesterday for a question that I had come up from a parent, an out-of-state parent and student. So use it. It might seem a little confusing at first, but once you kind of understand how they have it structured laid out, then it's really simple and you could really play around with it as much as you need to. This is definitely a great resource for you guys, especially if you haven't filled out FAFSA in a couple of years or maybe ever, from either the student or the parent perspective. It gives you both perspective as a dependent student, an independent student, and a parent as well. Some of the enhancements, I'll kind of skip this a little bit. It's just improving the FAFSA, make it a little more user-friendly, whatever that means, right? Especially when it comes to financial aid. Sometimes you don't feel like it's very user-friendly, but they have made some modifications over time to improve it. These are just some of them. They just kind of hide some information that doesn't necessarily have to be out there. On the mobile, more, I guess, a rhetorical question because I don't really think of an easy way to find out, but I would imagine some of you have maybe used it. I would like to know how many have used it with their high school seniors. Here at Carroll, I haven't seen any student use the mobile app. It might be because it hadn't begun until a couple of years ago, so most students got comfortable doing it online. The mobile app is a pretty good option, especially nowadays with everything being mobile friendly. There's an app for actually everything under the sun now. This is a good opportunity to use it. Both the parent and the student can download the app and then use it at separate times to get that FAFSA submitted. So I would encourage you to consider this as another option. So for those students say, oh, I don't have access to a computer. And if you have a smartphone, then you could definitely still get it completed without needing access to a computer. I did mention last time that with the tax code changing a couple of years ago, the 1040A and 1040EC were eliminated, but it did create schedules 1, 2, 3, and 4. The schedule 1 is what usually trips up parents. If the parent uses the data retrieval tool or the link that allows the IRS to upload all the tax information, then the parent doesn't have to answer the Schedule 1 question. It'll be answered automatically by the IRS. If they don't use the IRS data retrieval tool, it has some smart logic that it'll use, but the parent may need to know if they submitted one or not. Okay. Some major changes from previous year. Go ahead and skip those for now. Just some more of the reminders. The big one question that we get probably 2 or 3 times a day, at least in our office, is my parents are separated. Whose tax information do I use? So the big key again is that fifth bullet point: who supports the student more than 50%. So maybe 51 is on the slide, but honestly it could be 50.1. So that would leave somebody with a little more than half of the support. So that's the parent that the student would be using for the FAFSA. Loan interest rates, those significantly got a pretty big cut this last year from previous years, 2.75%. Honestly, it's going to be a long time before any of these students see an interest rate that low for any loan, auto, home, you name it. It's going to be a while till interest rates get that low. So for those students who are a little bit afraid of like, oh, I don't want to do student loans, again, we hear that every day, all year long. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's an investment they're making, just like you make an investment in a vehicle or a home. Loans there's a good chance loans would be a part of that investment, and just let them know that interest rates are historically low for both the student and the parents. If the parents are willing to borrow on their behalf, they're a lot lower than they have been in previous years. And I'll leave this slide up for you guys. Just top thing, financial aid tips to tell students. Feel free to read through these, take a screenshot of it, copy it down, print out the handout. These are just things to really help your students as they try to navigate the financial aid process. I know the FAFSA one opened up about a month ago. Some of you might not have very many questions from students yet, but maybe you have your own questions of things that you're kind of anticipating. I was trying really hard not to mention COVID, since we're probably all sick and tired of hearing it. But if there are any COVID related questions with students not too sure what they should do, what they shouldn't do, if there's financial implications due to COVID, if job loss, furloughs, anything along those lines that you think you might have, feel free to ask any of those questions. I hear a question out there. No? Okay. Where do we find the handout? Good question. I believe that should have been sent out on Tuesday's presentation because it should have been attached to that update that all the agency gave. I provided that for Amy. If it wasn't on there, I'll work with Amy to make sure all of you get that handout, which the handout is essentially these slides, just in a PDF version.
Timing, not to jump in, but just to make
Yeah.
sure everybody knows, it's in a couple locations. So it was linked in the counselor update page the last 2 days. There's a link to the financial aid form, so we shared it during Jaime's presentation on Monday. It's still on the counselor update page, which is montanacolleges.com/update. If you just scroll down to the event docs, it's linked there. I also linked it to the presentation today in the virtual fair. So where you went to sign up, if you signed up through the virtual fair, there's a link on that too. And I'm happy to share it afterwards as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Amy. The question came in from tip number 1. What is EFC? Thank you, Maria. It's expected family contribution. So this is what the FAFSA, this is the number that the FAFSA really provides every school to determine eligibility for a student. So the estimated expected family contribution is what the government feels a family can contribute towards that student's education. So as unique as a family will be, that EFC will be calculated in a unique fashion for every single student who completes it. It doesn't mean that that's what the family has to help the student with to help fund college. The government's not telling you this is what you have to pay. This is what the government feels that you can pay with the financial aid, with the financial information provided, and then the colleges will determine what eligibility the student has, both on the federal side with federal loans, work study, grants, as well as if the school offers any additional aid pending financial need, the schools will use that to determine what eligibility the students may have.
Jaime, you mentioned briefly about potential loss of employment right now due to everything that's going on, or just or whatever. But can you just give a brief overview of what that timeline should look like, or for what that follow-up might be for a family?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the impacts that COVID unfortunately had on our economy and our families around the country and the state of Montana as well, especially being such a tourist destination for the summers, if a family did have some type of financial loss, and not necessarily hard in stone, but a rule of thumb, it's about a 20% reduction in income. So if you kind of experienced that this last year of 2020, your 2019 tax information that's going to be used for the FAFSA won't accurately reflect what kind of happened this 2020 year. And chances are it's probably not going to be very accurate to what it will be in 2021 when the student would be starting school. So every school around the country has the option to do what we call professional judgment or review it for special circumstances. And I'll use Carroll as an example. We'll review just about anything under the sun. And in some cases it will, in other cases it might not really help the student at all. But every school can do a special circumstance in whatever fashion they choose to do it. The Department of Education gives us free range to decide what we're going to review and how we're going to review it. So if a student does come to you and say, hey, you know what, my family's income in 2019 was pretty good. Now in 2020, it's going to be quite a bit lower because my dad was laid off or my mom was laid off and we lost a significant amount of income. The best thing to do is fill out the FAFSA as normal. And then once you hear confirmation that the school that the FAFSA was sent to has received it, reach out to that school and inquire about the special circumstances. Again, every school can do how they please. I know there's a handful of schools out there. I don't think any in Montana, but there's a handful out there around the country who they will not review special circumstance under any circumstances. So some might say, I'm sorry, we don't look at that, we don't consider that, but most schools will, and I would imagine those that did not in the past might consider it after this year. So the best bet is to complete the FAFSA and then contact that financial aid office directly. The process will look a little bit different from school to school potentially, since it is up to the school how they're going to look at it. but please just have them reach out to that school's financial aid office directly. And then the student will be told by that office, this is what you need to submit, additional documentations kind of showing if there was unemployment being received, or if they had to withdraw from, let's say, a 401k or an IRA or some type of retirement account to kind of help fund the rest of the year if they were low on cash. But every school, again, is going to be a little bit different, so just have them reach out to that school directly. Okay. Anything to add on that, Tristan, from your guys' perspective at Montana Tech?
Hope that you answered it well. I will say at Montana Tech, we do ask that a student gets their initial financial aid offer before we look at those, just because, just so they can see that, and then we start to make that professional judgment. So.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Tristan. So we had another question. Going back to the tax documents, can parents still fill out the form they have if they haven't filled their 2019 taxes? They can. There is a question on the FAFSA does say will file not complete, so they just indicate that. Just know that if the Department of Education receives that answer, there's a good chance they're going to ask the student and or the parent to submit a copy of their tax transcript once the taxes have been filed. They want it usually as accurate as possible. So they might say, hey, you know what, it's fine submitting it right now with your estimates, but we do want that final figure once it is received by the IRS, and you could either use the IRS data retrieval tool to upload it or just submit that copy if the school requests it. There might be a chance where they won't request it, but they still definitely can fill it out without having the 2019 taxes filed yet.
Hi, May. I think, sorry, I'm going to have one more question. I know the MUS schools have a December 1 priority deadline. Do you want to speak to the other schools that are part of MASFA, especially Carroll's deadline?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up. I should probably add a slide on that. The priority deadline, like you said, for the MUS schools are December 1. And as a organization, MASFA got together and got all the schools around the state to agree to a December 1 deadline for every school in Montana. So that priority deadline for the state of Montana is December 1 for every school in the state of Montana. But again, for those of you who have students considering out-of-state schools, that could be different. So you want to reach out to either that school directly or maybe just look online to see what that state has as a priority deadline. And again, these are priority deadlines, not meaning, oh, if you missed it, you can't do it. Definitely still complete the FAFSA, even if the priority deadline was missed. The reason the priority deadline exists is because there are additional need-based financial aid or scholarships or grants out there that are more of a first come, first served basis. So the priority deadline is what schools around the state use to filter out, okay, who's going to receive these scholarships and who's not. So again, encourage your students to hit that priority deadline as soon as possible. That way, if they are eligible for some state need-based financial aid, they'll receive it because they're meeting that priority deadline, which December 1 is a couple months after that October 1. And even knowing that there's really nothing that would keep a student from filling out the FAFSA, taxes don't necessarily have to be filed to still fill it out. So please encourage your students to get that in as soon as possible before the December 1. But again, remind them if they missed it, because let's say, you know what, they're thinking right now, oh, I'm not going to go to college. And then comes March and they're like, oh, you know what, I decided I do want to go to college. Am I out of luck? No, they're not out of luck. Absolutely not. Please still have them fill out the FAFSA and start working with the schools at that point. Kind of a quiet group this morning. It's probably still pretty early, isn't it? A couple other things that I want to mention too that Tristan, I'd like for you to hear kind of what your guys' perspective from tech is also our outside source scholarships. So with outside scholarships, those don't come through, they won't receive it through the college or university they're attending. They would be through a nonprofit organization, maybe a community organization that's out there that that would be offering scholarships. We always encourage our students to apply for as many as they possibly can. Every year, students at Carroll bring in close to $1 million in outside source scholarships. So students do an excellent job with applying. The sad part is that they only do it as incoming freshmen. Out of the close to $1 million that we get in, about 80% of that comes only through our incoming freshmen, meaning that our sophomores, juniors, and seniors in college, they only bring in about 20% of our outside source scholarships. So kudos to you guys for always encouraging your high school seniors to apply and having those resources available. But just as you encourage them to fill out and provide those resources to them, I would encourage you to remind them, hey, you know what, this isn't a one and done thing. Outside source scholarships go all the way through graduate school, through master's, PhD levels, postdoctorate. There's scholarships and funding available for college. Just because the freshman year is over doesn't mean they should stop applying. I know things change. They don't have a high school guidance counselor saying, hey, don't forget to apply, or they don't have mom and dad in their dorm reminding them, hey, remember 30 more minutes and work on these applications. That's not really possible when they get to college, but as long as they hear, hey, you know what, there are scholarships available still, we would encourage you to continue looking at those even beyond. And the best thing to kind of tell students also is start locally. When they're applying for scholarships, everyone likes looking at that national $100,000 scholarship. Oh, I'm going to apply for the scholarship, which I would never discourage anybody from applying for it. But remember, if it's a $100,000 scholarship, just keep in mind how many students will be applying. So it will be far more competitive than if you're applying for a Elks Club scholarship in your town of 18 graduating seniors. So just think more locally, because the local agencies they favor more the local kids, of course. They look at them, they know them, they might know their family, they might work with their parents. So please have them start local and then kind of expand from there, from the city to the county to the state to the region, and then go national from there. It always produces the best results. Tristan, do you have anything to add about scholarships?
Yeah, I just wanted to, we always caution too, never to have a student pay for a scholarship application, just watching out for all those scams and things like that. And there are just a ton of outside scholarships. I was actually in a meeting last week, and our dean of students, when she went to college, she got one for having a big foot. Like literally there are just scholarships out there everywhere to help students get that free money to pay for college. So definitely look for those.
Awesome. Thanks, Tristan. I'll go ahead and read off this question we got from Naomi. If you could answer it for us, that'd be great. So she says, I have a student who wants to pay her way through college and so does not want to complete the FAFSA. Since you recommend that everyone fills out the FAFSA, can you address how you would advise this student?
So yeah, I would definitely advise her to fill it out, because even though she wants to pay her way through school, the grants and that, if she qualifies for them, it is free money. I mean, it's federal tax dollars. So she does, if she qualifies, that is her money too. But if she's not wanting to take out loans, that's very smart. Like if she's able to work and not need those federal loans, that's great too. But just filling out that FAFSA so you know what you qualify for, or even work study funding. She might be able to get a job on campus at the school and work to pay for college that way as well. So.
Thanks, Tristan. And one thing that I would like to add too, from the Carroll College perspective, students who apply and get admitted to Carroll College from the state of Montana, if they submit the FAFSA, they will automatically get a $2,000 scholarship just for completing the FAFSA. So in this student's case, let's say Naomi that she's interested in going to Carroll College. If she applies for the federal aid, whether she accepts anything or not, she still gets at least a $2,000 scholarship. So is it worth it? I would say so. For $2,000 filling out the application, I would definitely jump all over that. But if she really doesn't want to do it for other reasons, you can't really force them, of course, to just encourage them to know that you're not being bound to anything by filling it out. It at least lets you know what your eligibility would be. And schools like Carroll might offer some type of scholarship or grant just for filling out the FAFSA. So it's definitely a good idea to still fill it out, even if you're not intending on using any of the federal aid that the student might be eligible for. Okay. Rory, you asked a question about website for scholarships. I will provide a list for Amy, and maybe she could get it out to you guys, or maybe I could send it out to you guys personally. But there's a couple out there that are pretty good. The one that I always encourage students to use is Reach Higher Montana. So the agency kind of gave a little summary of what they do, and they're located around the state. They have counselors around the state. They offer a good number of scholarships for Montana students. The other one is MCIS, which I believe they were also on the call on Tuesday. And I really encourage our students to look at their website. They have a number of scholarships, probably a few hundred on there, and they're separated by college even. So if you have a student that knows they're going to go to Montana Western, there's a list of scholarships just for Montana Western on there that the student could look at. So yeah, MCIS, that's a really good one. I would encourage. And then there's other ones that you create a profile. And again, like Tristan said, you don't want to pay for any of these services, of course, but just know nothing is really free. So if the service is providing scholarships that are out there regionally, there's going to be a significant amount of ads potentially on there. So if the student's okay with watching ad videos or getting emails from different ones, that's kind of the unfortunate way it works, because again, they're trying to make money too, right? So that's why the ads are kind of on there.
Amy, I was just going to jump in and add when you talked about Retire Montana and the question about scholarships. Rory, I just wanted to let you know, actually Retire Montana is offering a scholarship session this morning at 11 o'clock. So feel free if any of you want to know more about scholarships and all of those great resources at Retire Montana. Thanks, Jaime, for mentioning that. I just want to let everyone know they're actually doing a session at 11. So
Thanks, Amy. Perfect plug for Retire. And I love the Retire team. I've worked with them since I've been here at Carroll, and they're just a great group of people. And so if you can attend their session at 11, that would be awesome. They have a lot of great resources for scholarships. Another question that came up was accepting the financial aid offer. So aid offers will go out starting probably around December, January for some schools, and then they'll go all the way through April, May of next year in the spring. So depending on when you receive it, what we always encourage students to do is to review the one they're receiving from that school and kind of keep it in mind to ask that school any questions to clarify the eligibility requirements for the scholarships, how long the scholarships are for. Are they strictly for their first year, for 2 years? Are they for all 4 years? And then once all those answers are made, are received, then maybe start looking at the other ones other schools are sending and start comparing. It's a bit of comparing apples to oranges in a sense, because the eligibility and requirements will be a little bit different potentially. But at the end of the day, what the student wants to be looking at is, okay, this school might be giving me $30,000 in scholarships. Oh, well, that school is about $80,000, so the out-of-pocket is still $50,000. But school B only offers $5,000. Oh, I think someone's. Oh, sorry. Thanks. And if a school is only offering $1,000, but the school is only $5,000 to attend, then the out-of-pocket would be quite a bit different. So that's something you want to have the students kind of compare and consider while they're looking at financial aid packages. The financial aid package should be accepted by May 1. I don't think there's a school out there in the country, or maybe there might be some exceptions with your Ivy League schools, that's a hard deadline. If the student's still not decided by May 1, they could definitely still have a couple of weeks or even a couple of months if need be to make a decision on if they're going to accept the financial aid offer to attend that school or not. Tristan, can you speak to how you guys do things at Tech?
Yeah, so we also hope to have our initial financial aid offers out either in December or beginning of the new year. And then we do have that like May 1st deadline, but it's not a hard set deadline for us either. We just kind of want to hear from students so we know where they're at, but we don't cancel anything. And then with scholarships, yeah, it's similar. Our different processes for every school, but we try to get our financial or scholarship offers out with that initial offer so that students can compare what schools they're looking at and have that piece so that they can make an informed decision.
Awesome. Thanks. Trying to see if there's any other questions that came in. Hey, Derek, can I ask you to give a little summary, a little more detailed summary about the FAFSA completion week that we're going to have this next month?
Yeah, definitely. So we're looking at the FAFSA completion week, November 16th through the 20th. And really the emphasis of the whole week is around FAFSA completion, completing FAFSA before the priority deadline. You know, and just because FAFSA completion is just so vital for many students, it can be the tipping point between, you know, should I go to college or shouldn't I go to college? And you know, just really, you know, as Jaime mentioned, is, you know, it's an investment in education and being able to complete that FAFSA. So that's, I mean, really that's the big reason that we want to have that week, is because we believe that it's just so important for students. So we're going to be pushing it. We're going to be sending out some flyers, sending out more information, sending out signups so that parents and students can sign up. You know, it's going to be open for everyone to join, all students, all families across Montana. So it's not going to be specific to any certain college or school or just any. It's just going to be all Montana students. So really, you know, if
That's right there,
if,
Thanks.
if your school hasn't been able to do a FAFSA night, we're having these FAFSA nights that they all can join up. Or if you're planning one, but you're not really sure how to do it, you're definitely more than welcome to just kind of to join in on this and really emphasize to your students the importance of getting that FAFSA completed. So that's kind of you know, and this is really, we wouldn't be able to do this without MASFA and all their help with it all. It's just something that we're passionate about, and I know they're passionate about, and yeah, we just hope to kind of get the word out right now. And yeah, is there any questions around that FAFSA completion week? Will there be sessions offered at the MUS level for students and parents to join for info on FAFSA? Well, I don't know if we have sessions like during this week. Is that what you're talking about? We don't have sessions right now. Everything that we will have is going to be just during that week, November 16th through the 20th. And the times are going to be from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And those are all going to be for students and parents to join, to get info on FAFSA, to get help with filling out FAFSA, and all of the above on that, if that answers your question.
And Marissa, those are live events each evening that financial aid professionals will be staffing those Zoom calls. But feel free to chat back in if we're not understanding that question.
Perfect. And you know, there was an article that I read yesterday as well that it talked about how FAFSA completion and, you know, if at a state level, if we were to, you know, reach out to students and families and everybody, there's not a huge success rate of getting students to turn out. Really what it is, it comes down to our high school counselors, you know, teachers, people that are working one-on-one directly with the students. If they are really encouraging the students to complete the FAFSA, there will be a higher success rate. So we know that just a huge part of it will be each of, you know, all high school counselors, which is what we're going to be reaching out to you, providing you with information on it. But it will be just a huge part of your work that we're really asking and encouraging each of you to do, is to really to push this week and encourage the students to join in order to in order to get that help with completing their FAFSA. So let's see, when will you be sending links for those FAFSA nights? Oh, thanks, Angela.
Awesome. So I think we went over just a little bit of time. Are there any other last questions that anyone could think of right now? No? Okay, well, just again, thank you all for everything you guys do for our high school students here in the state of Montana. We really appreciate it because it'd be much more of an uphill battle without you guys. So we really appreciate everything you guys do. And please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the financial aid offices with any questions. You have my contact information, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if need be. But again, if you know a student's already set on going to one school or another, that financial aid office would be just as happy as I am to answer any questions for that student. We really are here to answer questions and make sure the transition from high school to college is as smooth as it can be. And then the funding piece of that is always a difficult and a challenge for a lot of families. And we understand that, so we always do our best to make sure the students and families are well aware of what's going on and how it's working and making sure there's no surprises down the road. We do our very best to do that. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the financial aid offices around the school. I'm sure Tristan would feel the same way down at Tech and all of her colleagues there and all the other institutions from around the state of Montana. We're very happy to help our students succeed. And if their dream is to attend an institution of higher education and start a career that way, we're happy to help.
Jaime, I'd just like to jump in and thank you guys so much. I want to thank Jaime, Tristan, Derek, Angela, and Maria for being here, and just a big, big thanks to MAFSA and MUS for coming together. We know how big financial aid is in this world of helping students, and that you guys really, I call you the magic men and women of the world, because you really do create magic for students to make this happen. It couldn't happen without financial aid. So I just want to say thanks on behalf of MOPSOC, of course, but I'll speak on behalf of all of the other counselors, but colleges and representatives who work in education. Thanks for all the good work you're doing with us. And if we can help in any other way, let us know. But thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.